Imagine that they all had access to agentic AI that could quickly diagnose these things and take action with oversight from the SRE. That can really improve outcomes for the business. So we'll see open source AI being recognized as a primary way of doing AI and building AI in enterprises. The government is interested to be aggressive and actually develop latest AI technology for the country, not just use what the others are building elsewhere.
This episode is brought to you by IBM. Welcome to another episode of Mint Techcetra. I'm your host Kartik, and today we are going to dive into artificial intelligence and explore what the next wave of AI will look like. As AI continues to evolve rapidly, it is poised to reshape industries and everyday life. Its possibilities are immense, from democratizing access to advanced technology with open source AI to leveraging small language models for source-efficient specialized application. Let's not forget AI agents, a game-changing technology with vast potential for automation and beyond. To unpack these exciting developments, we are joined by Dr. Amith Singhee, Director of IBM Research India and Chief Technology Officer of IBM India and South Asia. As director, he sets the strategy for the research division in IBM India for driving forward-looking innovation that fuels growth for IBM's products and services. As CTO, Amith engages with the regional ecosystem in academia and industry to represent IBM's technology vision. Together, we'll explore how IBM is leading the charge in AI innovation and what this means for business, developers, and society at large. Let's get started. Hi Amith, welcome to Mint Techcetra.
Hello Kartik, how are you? Good to meet you.
I'm doing great, sir. Sir, as we know that AI has seen a remarkable growth and evolution over the past year, could you share your perspective on how AI has progressed in the recent months and what key trends and advancements will shape the AI landscape this year?
Sure, Kartik. This is such a fast-moving landscape, so it's important to keep, discussing and keeping an eye on it, especially from an enterprise lens. Last year, we saw a lot of companies and enterprises across the world doing POCs, testing the waters. What is this thing? It seems to have a lot of promise. A lot of the POCs didn't translate into outcomes, but there were POCs that did go to pilot and into production, even in the enterprise setting. So this year we expect that will start to scale up even more. But there will be some underlying trends that will be important to realize for this scaling up to happen. I think one big one you mentioned is around agentic workflows in these AI systems, where we move from just a single pass, what an engineer would call an open loop. You just put an input and live with the output you get. You move from that paradigm to more of a feedback system where there might be internal feedback, where the model is being used to do reflection, think on the outcome, and then improve the result before providing the output to the end user. Or there might be external feedback where there's checkers, there's things outside the AI system that actually validate what it has done and provide input back to it to improve. And going even further, where these agentic systems can do specific tasks, variety of tasks actually, just on their own based on the user intent, right? So that's a big technology trend that is coming into play. It provides a lot of potential for automation that goes beyond things like just parsing documents and such. The other big one I think we all have seen recently is with open source AI. The community is extremely active and keeps an eye on all the technology trends. And there are players, IBM being one of them, who are extremely committed to developing AI in a way so that it's transparent and open, and everybody has access to the models, the data that goes into the models, the governance around the models. And we are seeing that a lot of the open source players, because of the community effect and sharing, are able to reach levels of performance that are as striking as the level of performance you see from proprietary models, right? And so that will get accelerated. That will lead to a lot of cost and performance optimization, especially in the open source setting. It's particularly interesting to enterprises because of the portability of such models. You are not locked into a particular venue. You can actually bring the AI to your data rather than taking the data to the AI, which for enterprises, for governments, is a very, very big requirement. And so we'll see open source AI being recognized as a primary way of doing AI and building AI in enterprises. We'll also see a lot more focus within the enterprise on multimodal AI. A lot of the work, while in the consumer sector has looked at multimodal, in the enterprise, it was heavily driven by language and text and code. But we'll see a lot of other modalities picking up, such as time series data, image, video, voice, all sort of getting synthesized together to understand a particular business process or a physical process and how you can drive improvements in that. So these are some of the trends that we expect this year.
Dr. Amit, the India AI mission has recently called for proposals to build India's foundational AI models. What should startups and researchers in India account for as they make plans for training foundation models and LLMs for India?
Yeah, this is a very exciting recent development. Of course, we knew the India AI mission was active, but seeing some of the concrete calls for proposals, the recent one, focused around foundation models and use cases that come out of that is particularly exciting because it says that the government is interested to be aggressive and actually develop latest AI technology for the country, not just use what the others are building elsewhere. And clearly this will excite a lot of startups, researchers, and industry participants. And they should jump in, but they should recognize that going from the paradigm of using somebody's AI API and building on top of that is not the same as training your own foundation models, whether you're doing it from scratch or whether you're doing from an early model checkpoint and adding a lot of new data on top of it. Especially in the Indian setting, I expect that we will be trying to optimize performance and cost while trying to maximize the quality of these models for all the diversity that we need in the country. To do this, startups should think more holistically beyond just getting the first MVP out, right? We need to think about this a little holistically as to how to set up a sustainable engineering organization, which can start small, but it needs to have a lot of the core capabilities around data, around the model, around benchmarking, around governance of the life cycle of the data and model. Because once, if you're really going to make a difference with your models to the country, then it's important to have a long-term plan of ensuring transparency, of staying up to date, right? And that needs us to set up some of these organizational structures and to build automation even in the model pre-training and post-tuning phases. These are things we have done in IBM for building our Granite models. And there's a lot of learning that entities like us have. And we look forward to engaging with the startups and researchers to be a part of the journey in India.
Dr. Amit, you talked about the Granite model of IBM. So when we talk about scaling or developing AI, there's a lot of talk about open source in AI, right? Would that be relevant to India's aspirations for building our own models and AI solutions?
I think they are extremely relevant because in India, we are not going to see $100 billion investment into a single entity to build the model for everybody, right? There will be a lot of players, each looking at the problem from their perspective, maybe looking at a part of the India regions or looking some domains, some languages. And if we don't have a structure that allows a community approach, a sharing approach, an open approach, while of course ensuring the proprietary commercial aspects that are needed for commercial success, then we will substantially throttle the advancements we can make in the country, that each of the stakeholders can make. Someone may be figuring out how to solve a certain problem for Bengali. It'll be hard for them to necessarily figure it out for Gujarati, right? But if someone else is looking at Gujarati and how to tokenize that, or what are the data sets that can be used there, And if they can share, they can both address their own use cases and market segments, right? But that will supercharge what each of these players can do. And I'm really excited about the hunger for this in India that already exists, because last year we saw the AI Alliance, which is a community effort of organizations across the world. We saw the AI Alliance expand significantly from just one member in India to 9 members within a span of 2-3 months. And this includes some of the hottest startups, non-profits, SIs, and large enterprises coming together and saying, let's figure out what we can collaborate on. And there's actually multiple streams that came out of that, and we are seeing some of the members starting to develop projects together in that space that are at the intersection of their interests. So hopefully with this call for proposals and the increased investment in this space, we can also maintain the focus on open source and a community way of doing this, so that we can do the best for India.
Sir, certainly open source is actually the talk of the town. And as we discuss about the potential of AI, I'm also very curious, what is the role of IBM research playing in advancing this technology, both globally and here in India? And how do you see AI models developing further this year?
Yeah, so IBM Research has been fortunate within IBM to have been at the center of this transformation that's happening. We've had decades of leadership in AI, machine learning, cognitive computing. It's gone through many phases over the years. And even in this phase, the research organization within IBM is heavily involved in developing the Granite models, setting up the internal innovation machinery that helps us rapidly innovate both within the Granite models and on top of that for our different infusion products. For example, the watsonx Code Assistant, watsonx Orchestrate, some of these groundbreaking products that the market is now adopting heavily, which have generative AI infused in them that need innovation on top of the base model. And we are heavily involved in understanding what our enterprise clients need and translating that into the innovation pipeline. So, of course, we have the Granite models for language and code, but we also have the Granite model for time series, which is extremely important for manufacturing sector, retail sector, healthcare, many sectors where the data is not just language, but it's a data of machines, it's data of processes, and data of sales. And the other area that we worked on is in the geospatial area, where IBM Research has worked closely with organizations such as NASA to develop open models for understanding remote sensing images, for understanding weather and climate data. These are the Prithvi series of models. So research has been heavily involved in all of these, and we are working on all of the trends that I discussed with you earlier. Agentic AI, how does that translate to the use cases, whether it's in software engineering, whether it's in maintenance, asset management, whether it's in IT automation. And we are committed, as part of IBM's commitment to the open, that is evidenced by our working in the open with the Granite models, putting out a number of our tools actually, such as Data Prep Kit, Instruct Lab, also into the open for everybody to use and enhance. And we continue to work heavily with the alliance, with many of the players in India, to foster this sense of open source together, and continue on that path. And multimodal, like I mentioned, that's another trend we're heavily involved in, with looking at different modalities such as time series and so on. So that's a quick view of what we're doing in research.
Dr. Amith, we always get to hear about AI and AI agents. So let's talk about AI agents. What exactly makes AI agents the next big thing in AI, and what kind of impact can we expect to see in 2025? And what is IBM's play in AI agents?
Sure. So, you remember the days a couple of years ago when we had AI tools come up where you could say, write a poem for something and it comes back with a poetry, or generate an image, it comes back. So it was a single interaction where the user would ask for some content, and the AI would generate that content. And this was generative AI, right? That was why we call it generative AI. Now, what's happening with agentic AI is this generative AI becomes a part of agentic AI, but now the AI does some work for you. It's not simply generating a content as a one-shot interaction, but you can say, can you go and find the best flights to a particular location and give me the top 3 options and maybe even book the ticket. So now it actually has to do multiple steps, right? So the agent has to have capabilities to first plan out based on the user's intent. What is the plan of activities I'm going to perform? It needs to then call certain tools, like interact with travel APIs, interact with my history of travel, or things like that. And then it needs to figure out how to call those, because all of this is not programmed in, right? That's the fundamental difference from older software systems where everything would be programmed. Here it is on the fly doing discovery and tools. And then the other big thing agentic systems have is this notion of self-reflection and feedback and improvement, right? So it may generate some code to call an API to get the flight options, but there might be some errors in the code. So if it can look at the code and reflect, just like we do when we write, let's say, an essay or write the code which initially has bugs, it can improve it until it's confident that this is correct and then call the tool. So a lot of these iterative and tool calling and planning capabilities, again, driven by generative models at the core, but the capabilities are much broader than just generating content for the end user. That's key to these agentic systems. For IBM, we are really driven by what our clients need globally, enterprise clients. And there's a wide variety of use cases, whether you look at business efficiency in the form of, let's say, IT automation, where, when businesses, as they have digitalized over the last decades, heavily dependent on their IT systems for customer engagement and for operations. And every minute of downtime or slow performance has a big impact on business. And today, a lot of that has to be done manually and is dependent on the skill distribution that you have in your SRE or your engineering base. Imagine that they all had access to agentic AI that could quickly diagnose these things and take action with oversight from the SRE. That can really improve outcomes for the business, right? Same thing with asset management. Whether if you're an oil and gas company, or you're some kind of chemical company, or a heavy assets like electric utility, you often have to do diagnosis. That, okay, I'm observing these things on the dial, something is off, what is going on? You need to go read the manuals and do some diagnosis. Again, if you have agentic AI that can bring all of that knowledge right there at the point of diagnosis to the engineer and help him or her work through that more rapidly, that can be a tremendous impact. And then, of course, software engineering, I think that is the poster child that we see even externally with the startup ecosystem, where, being able to write code, fix code, make changes to the application, all of that becomes relevant.
One last question that I really want to ask you. We have covered so many fascinating aspects of AI today. But as we wrap up, what are you personally most excited about AI in 2025?
To be frank, personally for me, I moved back to India about 9 years ago, and it's been extremely rewarding. But this year is particularly exciting because I see the potential of AI being realized in our country and helping us overcome barriers of language, barriers of education, barriers of cultural differences, and bringing all the benefits of AI to our country. And with the commitment that the government is starting to show, with the excitement in the ecosystem, I'm most excited about how me personally and IBM will be a part of that journey to work with the ecosystem players to bring foundation models to India. The other thing that goes along with it that I'm very keen to see is India taking a responsible AI approach to it. It is part of the India AI mission. It is part of the calls for proposals that came out recently. And especially for, with IBM being one of the leaders in this space, it is critical to all of our clients across the world We are engaged with the ecosystem to really bring all of the principles of responsible AI, that governance, and building AI for the people, for the safety and productivity of the people. So looking forward to that also, Kartik.
Thank you, Dr. Amith, for these wonderful insights, and thanks to all our listeners who have tuned in. It's clear that 2025 is set to be a pivotal year for AI, and we are excited to see where it takes us. So thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kartik.